after they answered an advertisement in The Stage. Only 5 were chosen. My next guest was one of them, and I'm delighted at last to be meeting her. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Scary Spice, Melanie B.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Oh.
How do you manage to live your life in this goldfish bowl of publicity and celebrity? How does that feel?
Well, back home, I live like right out in the country, so it's nice and peaceful and calm. And I come into London for all the madness and work. So apart from that, I live, you know, quite a normal, you know, regular life.
Yes, but whatever you do, people don't think it's regular. They think that you are a celebrity and that's your life.
I do my own shopping. Me and Phoenix go for walks in the park. You know, you have to kind of keep your feet on the ground at some point. And I've got family around me that are really down to earth, so that's good.
Let me ask you this. How do you balance the business of solo work with performing as a group?
A good schedule and being in control of what you do. Totally.
But it's more than being in control, isn't it? Because it's a matter, too, of deciding precisely what you do with each side.
Yeah, I think because I mean, I've been doing it now for like 5 years. So you know the kind of interviews that you want to do, you know the kind of promotion that you want to do. So you just stick to what you know best, really, and don't kind of leave yourself stranded.
I'm glad you mentioned
weird situations.
I'm sure you'll never get stranded in any situation. If I may say so. There is an impression that the work that you do as an individual singer, your solo work, is of a different sort of character. It's much more serious, it says much more. There's something about the work you do as a group which is very different. Now, are you happy with that?
Yeah, because I think, you know, when you work as a group, you've got 4 other people's, you know, opinions, you know, tastes, so your kind of thing does get diluted a little bit. So obviously when you are out there by yourself, you know, you do come across more stronger and people get to see what you're about more. You know, that's only a natural thing that does happen.
But do you have to make compromises?
No, I think we all know each other that well. We don't even go there. There's, like, no arguing. We know, like, what's going on with each other. It's kind of just cool. Because
you know what the next question is likely to be. If you have to make compromises, there will come a time when you think, I don't want to do this anymore, and what I'll do, I choose my own career and I give up the group.
No, because we manage ourselves at the end of the day, and Spice Girls has a business together. And apart from being the best of friends, you know, we actually do advise each other and chat on the phone, and, you know, we're kind of in tune with each other, so that would never stop.
And you make a lot of money.
Yeah.
and so
basically.
But is that the interest in keeping the group
No,
together?
It's more of a vibe. I mean, when we started, you know, there was no girl groups around whatsoever. We were knocking on people's doors and they were like, no, girl bands don't sell. We're not going to give you the front cover. We're not even going to give you 5 minutes of our time. So we had kind of like a mission going. And it's still there. And girl power's still there. The music's still there. I mean, it's a whole, you know, this is what I do. This is what I do best. Being in a group, being part of the Spice Girls, and fortunately I've been given the chance to do stuff by myself as well. So I'm a lucky girl. Thank you.
I know you're a lucky girl. You also have this new single, and I want to give everybody to have a chance to...
Was you bopping to it, Trevor?
I'll be sure you...
Good.
Let's see what Dr. Liam Fox thinks of it now as we have a look at it now here. So now I wonder what could that have been about. You lied to me, and I gather that no names are mentioned. Let me finish, please. I gather there are no names. There are no names. The saddest day of my life. All you wanted was Mel B's money. What was all that about?
I feel like I'm being told off.
No.
I'm sorry.
It's a genial. Meant to be a very genial inquiry.
Well, you know, my album is very, very autobiographical about stuff that has happened to me.
So it's about your former husband?
No. No.
But that song is about?
No, I didn't mention any names. It just describes a time in my life when I felt very vulnerable, a bit lost, you know, up and down.
And that was during your marriage? No names mentioned? Yes?
I'm going to get sued even more now.
No.
At my house, house now.
But it was a very sad part of your life, the fact that your marriage broke down after 15 months, 16 months.
Yeah, it was sad for Phoenix more than anyone because, you know, I was
but
brought
surely
up...
sad for you too.
Yeah, but I can handle it. I'm a strong girl.
Yeah.
I just think it's sad, you know, me and Jim did, you know, bring a child into the world, and it's nice to have mum and dad there. So it's unfortunate for her it hasn't worked out. And for me, it's just one big learning process. I don't regret it. You know, I was very much in love with him and he was very much in love with me. But sometimes it doesn't work out.
But there were other people around you. I mean, you have said quite publicly that your mother wasn't quite sure the relationship would work. She didn't even want to come to the wedding.
Corner,
I'm not. I'm sorry. I don't mean to back you into a corner. I mean, I'm just saying what I've read about what you said about it. No.
But it's a great record.
It's a great record. Well, at least we have an endorsement of the record.
Save me. Nice one.
And a new movie? You're going into movies now too?
Yeah, I've just done a short film called Fish. It's only 15 minutes long, so if I'm bad, then kind of blink and you miss me. It's over now.
Oh, 15 minutes is a long time, you know.
No, the film is beautiful. It's a beautiful film. It really is.
You
Yeah, in
enjoy-
about 3 months, hopefully.
You enjoy that idea of doing work in Hollywood films and so
Well,
on?
I played a council estate woman who was a fishwife. So it was, you know, I was like a common northern lass.
One of the things that...
Which is why
One of the things that people in...
with gloss.
I'm really struggling here. Thank you. One of the...
Oh, I bet you got a view then, didn't you? Sorry.
It's all right, I'm a doctor.
You can trust him. You can trust
I
him.
heard that before.
One of the things that people in Hollywood get obsessed about is personal fitness,
Oh,
which I
yeah.
think you are interested in too. Look at those arms.
I train today, actually. I know I do train twice a week.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to kind of keep yourself healthy.
I've read how you
and
enjoy
happy.
that.
Well, I didn't enjoy it for ages. I really didn't. The thought of going to the gym, there's 101 things better that I could think of to do. But, you know, when you have a baby, it's kind of like, let's get back in shape.
The other thing that people in Hollywood talk to about this, they talk about getting fit. They talk about when they have to get back in shape, getting plastic surgery and so on. Does that side appeal to you too? Do you think you'd ever have to do that?
Not really.
Or have you ever had to do that?
No. Not really. I do believe in doing it the natural way, she says, with hair dye on her and stuff, lots of makeup on. No, I do believe in, you know, looking after yourself, feeling good about yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you don't love yourself, then who else is going to love you?
And your daughter goes almost everywhere with you.
Yeah, she's amazing. She really is.
And that's a great experience for you, is it?
Oh, it just gives your life so much more meaningfulness. It's brilliant. Cheeky smirk, come
No,
in.
it's not a smirk at all.
But you can't wait till this interview's over. Is that it?
I'm afraid it is.
Oh!
Melanie, thank you very much. In a few moments, we'll be joined by a man who is a cult figure in his homeland, South Africa, and the local hero in Watford. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. Being chosen to represent one's country in any sport is always an honour. But when that country is post-apartheid South Africa and the president himself visits you in the dressing room to wish you luck, then the pressure to do well is absolutely enormous. My next guest took it all in his stride, and he took the Springboks to victory in the Rugby World Cup of 1995. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Mr. Francois Pienaar.
Is this a seat where you get a view? Or
That's right. This is a very good seat. I recommend that you sit in that seat. Now, Mel B met Nelson Mandela, who's a great hero of yours.
Oh yes, he's more than a hero. He's incredible. I met him the first time in 1994, just before I went to New Zealand. I tried to bribe him to go to New Zealand to support the Springboks. He told me a fantastic story. This was now when South Africa came into the new world, and he wanted more athletes to go to Seoul in the Olympics, and they said, only if you come and open the games for us. He said, I'm too busy, I've got so many things happening in South Africa. So they said, well, then you can't have any more athletes. He then went, and he said it was the most tremendous experience of his life. So I tried to do the reverse, bribing him to go to New Zealand for our tour there. He didn't go, but he did appear in 1995.
Now, it's interesting what you said, because when he met you, and he met, he said, I think he said, and he wasn't joking, I'm sure, he's a very serious man, he said it was one of the greatest days of his life.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I was like, wow.
But, I mean, what was that like to meet him?
Brilliant. We was like in his house. Like that, wow, in Nelson Mandela's house. And he's such a lovely, down-to-earth guy as well. Takes time out to talk to you. He's on, like, your level. He's brilliant.
To everyone.
Brilliant.
You can hear him coming around the corner, and he would talk to the guy at the door, he would talk
Really
to
sweet.
everybody, and he'll spend time and be genuine. Before we came over here, we had most probably the best lunch I've ever had in my life. We came to England, and the president invited us for lunch. Now, you think it's just going to be a state banquet where there's a lot of people and invitees. So I arrived with my wife there, and very nervous, but also excited. And it was only Nelson Mandela and Graça Machel. And we had lunch, and I mean, it was incredible. We hung on their lips, and it was actually Graça Machel on the day that impressed us tremendously.
Yeah. Now, listen, after all this for you, Saracens, you came, what was it like leaving South Africa and ending up working with Saracens, and now you are, of course, in Watford?
It was an absolute shock. I tell you what, now you must remember, in South Africa, it's a massive sport. I played there in front of an average crowd of 50, 60,000 people. It's a massive sport. I knew rugby in the UK was not that big, and I knew it was amateur. I wasn't prepared for it to be archaic when I arrived. I mean, seriously, I arrived at Branbury Road Sports Ground the first night of training, and they said, you're training on that pitch. And I looked over there, and I saw what seemed like candlesticks on a flagpole, and that were the floodlights. So in mud this deep, I didn't shower because I went into the showers and I wanted to have a shower, and the guys were standing underneath the showers with their clothes on, washing the mud off, and the mud was this deep. I'm thinking, no way, this is not for me. So I got in my car, I drove home. The washing machine broke a couple of days later because of all the mud in it, and it was bad. I must say I battled. I didn't have the knowledge of London. Lived in Surrey, travelled up the world's biggest car park every day to Watford to go and train. It wasn't fun at all. But I must say it's turned out to be a wonderful experience, and now playing at Watford, sharing the ground with the Watford football
But
club.
one of the other differences between, if you like, Northern Hemisphere rugby and Southern Hemisphere rugby, you are now in the Northern Hemisphere with Saracens, is that you found that they factored into their equation for the season a certain number of games which they would lose.
There was that element of it. When we did goal setting with the players before the season started, and I must say I've been fortunate. I've played in very successful teams my whole life. The biggest run of victories they had were 5 or 6. And I said we should go through the season undefeated. And I mean, they were sitting there and you could see. I mean, this guy from South Africa is stupid. He's crazy. We did then start playing really well. So you had to change that mindset. But on the other side, flip side of the coin, the guys were really professional in their application. They saw this as a professional sport. Where in the Southern Hemisphere, it was always semi-professional. We didn't get paid a salary as such. I mean, there was always a little bit of money in the shoe after the game, which was not legal at that point in time. But we played in front of 50, 60,000 people. The guys here were playing in front of 500, 200, 100, and maybe 4 Labradors and so you can imagine that it needed a sea change in their mindset to become more and more competitive. Now that has happened.
Is it the same with Scottish rugby? I mean, is it?
I was hoping you wouldn't mention that sad subject there.
No. Well, I mean, you know me. As Mel B pointed out, I tend to mention these sad subjects. I mean, so.
Yes, it is the last show, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. Yes, I mean it's been a salutary experience supporting Scotland in the last season, at least up until the Calcutta Cup, and there seems to be an increasing gap between the Northern and Southern Hemisphere. game, and I don't really know what the reasons for that are, whether it begins at school, whether we're not getting good enough young players coming through, or whether it's the professional approach.
I don't think so.
Be careful.
I don't think so.
But
I think there's a lot of talent in the Northern Hemisphere. I know there's a lot of talent in the Northern Hemisphere.
But let me just make this one point. When Dr. Fox says, what the reason might be, is it that in this country, in the North, football is the game. Mm-hmm. In South Africa, unquestionably rugby. It's football here. Mm-hmm. And therefore, whatever you do about rugby, you are always going to be in second place to football. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it is. You should accept that. But your target market is different. We are marketing the game to families and the community. Our community program started in 1997. We've had over 105,000 kids through the rugby in the community program. Now, sport teaches you so many good things in life. It actually gives you values that a parent or a master at school can give you. To work hard, team spirit, respect. You've got to earn it. You can't just demand it. Those sort of things sport do teach you. Now, I was shocked to see that sport's not really pushed from government level as a whole. When you have a strong sporting nation, you have a strong community. You see that in Australia, and they've been absolutely incredible what they've done with their sport in the last 5 years.
But what was it like for you playing as a young man, as a much younger man in South Africa? How did it...
Did you have to say much younger man?
Well, much younger.
That's all you do.
Well, no.
If I said...
I've lost it. You're stronger than me.
I thought you'd be walking on like that.
How...
Well, you see, I played in South Africa in the apartheid era. But when you're a kid, you don't know what politics is all about. You just believe the propaganda of the day. You know where your school is, you know where your house is, your friend's house, and the cafe around the corner where you meet all the chicks. That's your frame of reference.
But how far did that go? Were you never conscious of this great divide between the peoples?
Only when I went to university and I started growing a brain. That's when I started questioning things. Yeah. And I've been very lucky because as I got into the international scene, things changed in South Africa. When I broke through and played for the Springboks, we were in this world that we are playing in now.
So you never had to consciously think when you were a younger man whether you'd ever play alongside a black player, for example. No. Those thoughts never had to cross your mind.
No, I've never fortunately never been put in that position. Because you don't know how you would react. And I'm honest about it. I went on the Nicky Campbell show and he said to me, he said, F.W. de Klerk dodged the question, how would you feel if your son wants to marry a black girl? I said, I don't know. What kind of question is that? I think it's sad if you refer to it in that way. How would I feel if my kid wants to marry an Asian girl? It's not about the color; it's about the person. The qualities in the person. Is it a good person? Would she be a good wife? And seriously, so those sort of questions, I was fortunate enough I didn't have to answer.
And then, of course, you had the chance to lead your country with the support of the president. To a fantastic World Cup victory. I must tell you, I was there, and it was the most extraordinary day.
I mean, the people here won't believe how...
Well, let's all relive at least a very brief glimpse of that sort of magical day now by Lucas clip.
I'll try and share some emotions with you on the day. Now, you're going into the Rugby World Cup final in your country. It's a massive sport. And I got into the dressing room. I'm tense now. I'm focused. You want to win this game. If you lose, you come second. That's it. Nobody knows of you. It's like kissing your own sister when you come second. It's neither here nor there. You want to win. So I'm in the dressing room and I'm strapped up. And I go into the other room and there's Nelson Mandela. And he's got my jersey on. I didn't know about this. I couldn't talk. I just shook his hand. We went around and he shook everybody's hand. And then I'm standing there singing the anthem. Now, I usually sing. I've got a crap voice. You've got a beautiful voice. I've got a crap voice. I usually sing, but because I'm so proud to be a South African and a sportsman. I couldn't sing because if I opened my mouth, I would start to cry because I was so proud of the day. And when the final whistle blew, you just looked into the stadium and there were people of all race, all colors, hugging each other and crying. And it's just... The power of sport is tremendous. You see it in this country every weekend. You see it at the end of the Premiership. You see it in rugby. And it's a drug. It's a beautiful drug sport and it gives people a feel-good factor second.
But how does South Africa take sport forward now? Should there, for example, there's still a perception and in reality there's still a lot of sort of inequality between the peoples of South Africa. Should sport play a role in trying to bridge that gap? Would quotas help?
I definitely think quotas would help, but I think you must be careful when you put quotas into any sport. Because if you put a guy into a national team and he's representing his country and he's not good enough and he gets shown up on the world stage...
Bad for the game, bad for his people.
But what will happen to his people?
Yeah.
I mean, the racism will then again erupt. So you've got to be careful. But I think quotas are valuable at school level, club level and provincial level in South Africa. And it should be geared on a long-form agreement where the government signs it off and you say, from year 1, we look at quotas at schools, primary schools, and then universities. And in year 5, you will have guys on merit. And I've got no doubt in my mind, the athletes are there, the quality is there. It's about nurturing this talent and giving each and every kid an opportunity to become better. The same as in the UK. When you go to a school, you'll see talent. You'll see a guy that's fast, you'll see a soccer player that's quick, or a rugby player that's strong. Now, where does he go? You've got to give him an avenue to become the best, to actually express his talent. Mel has got a beautiful talent in singing, a politician and a sportsman. It's all vast, and you've got to give him that opportunity to succeed.
Now, you left South Africa when they said you had no further part to play in the future of the game in South Africa.
I was dropped.
You were dropped.
Thank you.
I got told off for being a little too direct. So I'm going around. I'm being, indulging a little more circumlocution here now.
That's a big word for me.
But can you see yourself ever going back?
Well, in South Africa, I left South Africa because of the politics in the sport. And if you followed my career, I was the guy that helped turn, or didn't help, but I was central in turning rugby professional. And a lot of administrators didn't like it. Like I said, we were playing in front of 60,000 people and getting paid the equivalent of £200 a month. That was our salary. And we started asking questions, and then the game turned professional. I came over here because there were no more mountains for me to climb in South Africa, and then only downhill slopes. Arrived in England, there was a massive mountain. I fell in love with the club. Definitely the owner of Saracens is one of the best people I've met in my whole life, an honest, sincere person. And I see there's a tremendous opportunity for rugby in the Northern Hemisphere. It's gladiatorial. I would like to bring you and Phoenix to the games. It's got big hits, it's got passion, it's got speed of movement, and we entertain the whole family. That's our sell. And hence the fact that I'm quite positive that it has got a future.
Well, that's an invitation I'm sure Liam Fox and Mel B would certainly take up from you. Francois Pienaar, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Francois Pienaar. So my thanks to Liam Fox, Melanie B and Francois Pienaar. Sadly, that's all we have time for today. Thank you for joining us over the past few weeks. I hope you've enjoyed the series. We're off for a break now, but I hope we'll be back soon again. For now, from all of us here, goodbye and thank you very much for watching.